This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Venerable. If we can hand over to you to give a short explanation of meditation before doing a guided meditation, and
Sure.
then a short talk at the end. If
Sure.
you need anything, just ask. Thank you.
No worries. I thought I'd just start with a minute of peace, just to get us settled. So just make yourself comfortable and let go of any worries. You can have your eyes open or closed, just for a minute, just to relax. Let go of any of the tension of the day and just be peaceful for a minute. Relax the body, relax the mind. Give up coming and going, agitation and worry. And just tune into peace, to welcoming the present moment. Nowhere to go, content to be here right now. Okay, well, welcome everybody to this evening's Armadale group. And this is a long-standing meditation group, so well done to the group as a whole for all these years of coming together and supporting each other in meditation. And in Buddhism, for the monks, the way that the Buddha taught meditation was quite a detailed gradual training. So it's like, I suppose a lot of people when they think of meditation is sitting down and having peace or deep states of meditation. This is kind of a picture that a lot of people have, or kind of really strong focus or samadhi. But these things, don't occur naturally without the supporting conditions. And so it's useful when we come together to learn how to meditate, and also learn the supporting conditions for meditation. And the Buddha was always teaching cause and effect. So it's not that he had any particular desire one way or another whether people would follow him or not, but just looking out for the welfare of others, he was teaching. And then it was up to the individual to take on those teachings and practice them. And there was a distinction between the household life and life gone forth. And the simile was that household life is crowded and dusty, and life gone forth is open and free. And the idea behind that is because in the household life have many responsibilities, many duties, have families and houses to clean and jobs to go to and families and relatives to look after and many things to attend to. And I remember one teaching the Buddha gave to Moggallana, and he was telling Moggallana not to be upset if he went to a householder's house and he was ignored. You're just sitting there and don't have thoughts like, who have turned these householders against me? Because they've forgotten about you sitting there. But the Buddha's idea was that we just let go of all those kind of thoughts, because it's difficult being a householder. It's even more difficult to then take the time to practice, because in order to practice we require some peace and some spiritual teachings and ways of actually developing mindfulness. And you can look up for the monks and nuns, there's a thing called the Gradual training, where it starts with like the moral precepts, and then deportment, like how we act, and then goes on to more and more refined things. And it's not until first establish mindfulness of the precepts and mindfulness of one's deportment, awareness of one's body movements, and then it gets more and more refined. And even things like learning to eat just the right amount so we don't get too sluggish, and eventually even learning to sleep the right amount. And then after all of these supporting conditions are put together, then the Buddha would say to the monks and nuns, go off, find secluded places and develop mindfulness of breathing and relinquish the hindrances of the mind. So I think in Western culture we have a big push on meditation, and I think there's something really good about that. And it's true, if we put enough time into anything and we're devoted, then good things will come out of it. But I also like to remind people that there are also supporting conditions. And even in the Buddha, for the monks and nuns, would focus on, and the mind side would focus on developing the samadhi, which is the deeper meditations. But the word that he had for the householders was bhavana. And bhavana is like mental cultivation. And so the idea is developing throughout the day good mental qualities. So if you're doing the dishes or driving the car or speaking to your boss or watching television or telling your kids off or whatever you're doing, that we do these things with good mental qualities. So we're coming from a good place in our heart. And again and again the Buddha teaches the Eightfold Path. And why I point this out is that it's not that we're saying people have to believe these things or follow them. It's just useful to know that there is a path. And then the supporting conditions, like developing the factors of the Eightfold Path, lead of a way of refinement and a more refined understanding of the body side, the speech side and the mind side is called the 10 wholesome and unwholesome courses of action. So that way we learn what things lead the mind towards peace and wisdom, and what things lead the mind away from peace and wisdom. And but yeah, the one Thai Ajahn, Thai teacher, meditation master said, never expect the mind to sit still, because the mind is a monkey. So I think a lot of the difficulties that we may face in meditation is because the attitude that we have is not right. So, if the mind is restless, then we can just be aware of that. And, if the mind is angry, we can be aware of that. So we don't always need perfect peace and bliss and calm and wisdom. We have to work with the states of minds as they arise. So I would say meditation is more the persistence to coming back to developing mindfulness and positive mental states. Because the mind being the forerunner of all things, when we're good people, that leads to blamelessness. And then once there's blamelessness, then it's easy to have inspiration in one's meditation and in teachings of truth. And then it's easier for the mind to come back from that stillness to look at our life and slowly make changes. But the Armadale group being so long, anybody who's meditated for a long period of time, year after year, knows that just the practice of meditation is rewarding and does deepen. But I think also having a daily routine, trying to meditate a certain amount every day, and then also learning what works for oneself, because we're all different. And that's why actually in Buddhism there's 40 classical meditation objects. And then you look in the suttas and there was even more meditation objects. Even Nibbana was, or a fish wriggling in water, or all sorts of strange things people have taken as meditation objects. But the reason why the Buddha teaches the breath as one of the supreme meditation objects is it's always with us. Any time of the day, the breath is with us. There's an in-breath and an out-breath, an in-breath and an out-breath. But we're not aware of that. So it's a very simple object, or awareness of the body. Through the day you can be, what's the posture of the body, what's the arm doing, where's the foot. So we have a very grounded awareness. And then that grounded awareness means that when we actually sit and walk or do the formal meditations, we haven't let the pot go cold. So we've actually been watching over the mind through the day, trying to be mindful, trying to have good mental states, and then it's easier when we sit down to continue somewhere close to where we have been in our prior meditations. So we have this kind of feeling of continuity. And I think cultivating the mind is some of the hardest work there is to do. So it's not, but it also has an attitude component to it. So the Buddha said something like, there is the slow and painful path, the slow and quick path, the happy and slow path, and the happy and quick path. Meaning, and he always recommended the happy and quick path, meaning that if we can practice in a way that brings us inspiration, that brings us peace, that brings us release, and we can have a good attitude and see things in line with truth, then we don't have to add extra suffering to our experience. And I think what that teaching is particularly pointing to is our attitude, how we are practicing. And so to have a good attitude, we also need to have a good practice. And to have a good practice, if it's not coming naturally, then we need to investigate why that's so. Like one of the teachings the Buddha had on laziness is, if it's too cold, you don't practice. If it's too hot, you don't practice. If it's too early, you don't practice. If it's too late, you don't practice. If you're too full, you don't practice. If you're too hungry, you don't practice. There's this idea that something in your experience, and then you use it as an excuse not to practice, rather than just saying, well, I'm a little bit tired, but I'm awake, so maybe now's a good time to practice. So it's just that little shift, rather than always putting practice off, we just make use of opportunities as they arise. So I think for me, learning to meditate has been quite a difficult experience, because I tried to develop many meditation objects, and there is something to doing that, because you are building mindfulness, but also there's something good about having a strong meditation object or two meditation objects that you develop. And I like how in the Buddhist tradition, with the walking and the sitting as being the predominant meditation themes. Like in Thailand, they would have the Buddho with the in-breath and the out-breath. They would often teach to watch at the nose, and if that wasn't comfortable, then you could follow the flow of the breath in and out until eventually the mind stilled. And then I also learned things like, in one of the ancient texts, it was Vimutti Magga, and they also have it as the lip. You can watch it at the contact of the lip. But yeah, as you learn meditation, you notice there's many ways of meditation that are taught. And so the idea is not to spend too long and doing too many different things, but just to find what works with you and then stick with that. And I would recommend also practicing a bit of a Brahma Vihara and practicing a little bit of walking meditation, because the Brahma Vihara, which is like the metta, which is benevolence or compassion, which is karuna, or medita, which is appreciative joy, they're probably one of those first three are good as well, is because they build positive emotion and they build correct understanding, and then so we start to release any ill will or any lingering feelings towards ourselves and other beings, and it just puts the mind in a very good state. And then so by the mind being close to one of the Brahma Viharas, then when we come to meditate, it doesn't take long for us to start to settle and feel the peace and the joy of the meditation. And then the more we meditate, then the easier it is to keep the mind on contemplations of truth. And so it's a bit of a big brushstroke introduction to meditation, but when I first started, I was a bit zealous, and I think I did half an hour every day for a month, and then it reduced to half an hour every week for a year. But the half an hour every day for a month was much better, but I didn't have a system to keep checks on that, so eventually it decayed. So, I think the best benefits are formed from developing steady practice. And then the good thing about steady practice is then it's a certain time of day, and then regardless of the mood you're in, you can overcome that mood to practice. And then just practice contentment and non-judgment if you're in a really bad mood, or start to develop our own skillful means of how to work with the mind. And then the more we meditate, then the easier it is It's just like any skill. It's something that can be developed. I think there's even, I've never read it, but there's even a teaching of the Buddha where the path is explained like an accountant, like how an accountant would be a good accountant and the skills that they would do. The Buddha relates that back to the practice. And there's another one where the Buddha is called the great irrigator. You can think like somebody who irrigates the fields of farming. It's like we're learning to irrigate our own minds and wisdom. And so it's like opening up these channels and means for us to be more in the present and to be closer to peace and wisdom. So that's a really interesting way to just explain meditation from my understanding. And when the Buddha actually taught breath meditation, he taught it in a very detailed way. And that's because the Buddha is actually teaching people to become enlightened. So it's more than just peace. But obviously, to begin with, most the great masters, if you can develop peace, then that's what we should develop to begin with. Lots of peace, lots of joy, and make that really solid. And then once that's a foundation, then it's easy to contemplate things. But if we start contemplating too soon, usually, then that will just lead to proliferation. But there are some exceptions to that. Some people who, no matter what they do, just think. Then using the wisdom can also be used to still the mind. And like even contemplating, what we are, this body and mind. Where did we come from? Where are we going? What do we truly own? And then so by keeping the mind on a theme of introspection, and it brings the mind to peace. And then after the mind is peaceful, then it's much easier to meditate. And then the final one is like the chanting. Getting some chants like the Metta Sutta or the Mangala Sutta in English, or the greater discourse on mindfulness, and chanting it aloud. And then that's a way of focusing the mind on the teaching and settling the mind. So then we have ways of actually bringing ourselves into the present. So still a few minutes. So the last thing I suppose I can say is it's really about tuning into feeling as well. So in the gradual training we have sense restraint. And if sense restraint is overlooked, then it is very hard to settle into peace. And so in Buddhism we have the six senses: the eyes go out to sights, the ears go out to sounds, the nose to smells, the tongue to taste, the body to touch, and the mind to thoughts. And usually that's like we have one sense contact and then another sense contact and another sense contact. And this is why we're so exhausted, because our mind is just being pulled here and there. So the process of meditation is learning to give up our likes and dislikes at any of those 6 points and just be content with the simple meditation object. We may be aware of the sights and other things, but we're focused on a very simple object. And so either taking a few deep breaths in a meditation if we get very agitated, or coming back to just relaxing, or actually contemplating the 6 senses and just go, well, what's disturbing me right now? Oh, the mind's gone out to a thought and it has liking there. It's attached to liking in that thought. But has the mind really gone anywhere? Or it's just a thought? So just let go of the thought. The thought doesn't matter. Put it down. and gently come back to the breath. And so in such a way we can relinquish the disturbing feelings or disturbing desires that come up and center the mind back on its meditation. And the more we do this, like Ajahn Brahm would say, it's like I think it's in the Dhammapada as well, like the drips filling the jug or filling the bucket, and eventually it overflows. So that means, don't have expectations in your meditation, but eventually, the jug will overflow. We'll have experiences. We'll have the heart and the mind opening, and these are things that have just happened. But we don't hold on to them and we don't cling to them, but we just keep coming back to putting the work, no matter how long it takes, and just learning to be content with things as they are. So that's a very broad stroke introduction to meditation. So I think we can do our meditation now. So if you get yourselves comfortable, it's good to be in a comfortable but upright position. Arms in a comfortable position, feet in a comfortable position, back in a comfortable position. We'll be meditating for about half an hour, so we just try and get ourselves a comfortable but alert posture. And just allow oneself to settle. Starting to relax and unwind. Putting things down. Arriving right here in the present. And start by relaxing the feet, the toes and the feet, allowing stillness and peace to fill the feet, to permeate and suffuse the feet. The feet totally relax, letting go of lingering tensions as they begin to dissolve into peace. Relax the ankle. Inside out, relax the ankles. This peace spreading up into the lower legs, the shins, the calves, all the way up towards the knees. This suffusing of stillness and peace. Relax the knees, inside out. Relax the thighs, the lower thighs, the middle thighs, the upper thighs, suffused with peace, permeated with stillness, relaxed and at ease. Relax the hips, the weight of the body onto the seat or the cushion or the mat. Centering oneself, aware of the belly from inside out, all the sensations of the belly. And see that it naturally moves with the rising of the in-breath, the falling of the out-breath, the rising and falling. It's a natural process. And relax the belly, bring stillness and peace through this whole region, and stretching around to the lower back and spine, the middle back and spine, the upper back and spine. This stillness and peace, relaxation, spreading through the entire back. Suffusing any lingering feelings, welcoming and allowing. Stillness and peace permeating the lower, the middle and the upper back. Relax the region of the diaphragm and solar plexus. Relax the chest and relax the heart. Any tension in this region, just let it open out, dissolve into stillness and peace. Relax the shoulders. Totally relax the shoulders. So much tension can be held in the shoulders. Just bring some kindness, stillness and peace to the shoulders. Relax the upper arms, suffuse with peace, with stillness, with kindness. Relax the elbows, totally relax the elbows, stillness and peace. Friendliness and kindness. Relax the lower arms, the wrists, the joint of the wrist to the hands, the joints of the fingers and the fingertips. Suffused with stillness and peace, with kindness and friendliness. And it spreads through the arms, the shoulders, the chest, the torso, the waist, the legs. Stillness and peace, kindness and friendliness. Relax the neck. All the muscles and all the components of the neck. Just relax it deeply. So the neck starts to become comfortable, relaxed, suffused with stillness and peace. And bring awareness to the chin. Relax the chin. Bring awareness to the jaw. Relax the jaw. Awareness to the lips, relax the lips. Awareness to the tongue, relax the tongue. Awareness to the teeth and gums, relax the teeth and gums. Awareness to the upper and lower outer cheeks, relax them deeply. The area between the lips and the nostrils, relax it deeply. Relax the nostrils, the nose, the ridge of the nose, the sides, leading out under the eyes, the bags under the eyes, the temples, around the eyes, all relaxed. This tingly, soft sensation through all these regions. Stillness and peace. kindness and friendliness. And the eyelids and the eyes themselves. These very eyes that we see with, both physical and spiritual. Relax the eyes deeply. Feel the peace through the eyes. Like a tingly, soft sensation permeating and suffusing. Relax the eyebrows, the forehead, allowing the forehead to still, relinquishing agitation. And the whole head, the ears, the whole face, all of the head inside out, completely relaxed, permeating with stillness and peace, and the whole body, stillness and peace, kindness and friendliness. The body is relaxed. Just give rise to a soft, welcoming energy that we wake up from the inside, waking up to the present moment with a gentle alertness, with a kind awareness. We ask the body to look after itself. Whatever it is good enough. We put down the body. Relax any lingering feelings. You might notice some point of tension. Just of feelings that are reminding, bring your attention to any one lingering feeling. Place your mind on it gently and bring kindness to it, attentiveness and friendliness. We're not trying to get rid of. We're not trying to attach and cling, just to have a gentle awareness. And any lingering feelings we let go of. They're good enough. If the mind is restless, you just let go of restlessness. If the mind is worry, just be free from worry. If the mind is passionate, we just bring it back to coolness and peace. If the mind is angry, we just bring it kindness and compassion. And the mind is doubting this and that, we just be one who has gone beyond doubt, content here in the present moment. You might begin to notice the feelings of one in-breath. Notice the feelings of one out-breath. Just have a very comfortable awareness. Totally alive to one in-breath. Totally alive to one out-breath. If you can stay with the feelings of the breath, then that's good. If the mind is restless, then you can use a mantra like Buddha, Bud with the in-breath and Do with the out-breath. It just means awake. We're trying to be awake to one in-breath, awake to one out-breath. And gently remembering stillness and peace, sense of kindness and friendliness. Just with the gentle in-breath and gentle out-breath, quietly patient, content with things as they are. And see that this stillness and peace actually gives rise to a very quiet joyfulness. It's this quiet joyfulness with the in-breath, this feeling of quiet joyfulness with the out-breath. Keeping with the feelings or the mantra that we began with, is awake to the quiet joyfulness of one in-breath. Awake to the quiet joyfulness of one out-breath. This quiet joyfulness is growing out of stillness and peace, growing out of kindness and friendliness. Accepting things as they are. This quiet joyfulness with the in-breath, quiet joyfulness with the out-breath. Now as the thoughts are settling and the mind is settling, a sense of gladness and ease, spiritual contentment. Allowing the heart to dwell in unshakable peace, unshakable stillness. Staying with the gentle feelings of the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath. Unshakable peace, unshakable stillness. Sense of freedom and release. Now we're coming towards the end of the meditation. Liberating the mind, I breathe in. Liberating the mind, I breathe out. With this sense of liberation and peace, may we wish ourselves happiness and compassion. Those here meditating with us now, and to all beings everywhere right now. We share these feelings of kindness, friendliness, peace and liberation to all beings everywhere, including ourselves. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Sadhu. I see people are coming back to life. That's good. I actually used a lot of guided meditations in the past. Sometimes I would listen to one every day, even as a monk. Because the good thing about guided meditations is that if your mind wanders off, you have something to bring you back. So if you find it hard meditating, you can get a little MP3 player and choose a few of your favorite guided meditations. You can even edit off the ends of it so you just have the guided meditation. And then, just use the same meditation again and again. There's a way of the mind slipping into those states. You can develop it over time. So, we're going to open up to any questions or comments. We're all too still and peaceful. Yeah, this is why the Buddha recommended noble silence. And they would... noble silence is actually a reference to second jhana, which is a very refined state of mind where the mind goes beyond vitakka vichara, which is the process which we use to keeping to our meditation object. And so once you get to a deeper level, then the mind is just with its object, and then the resulting is kind of this sense of rapture and happiness and one unified one-pointedness of mind. And so when you hear the Buddha talking about noble silence, he's actually recommending people to live in this state as much as possible. And then if we're not in that state, when he would tell us what to talk about, he would say talk about the Dhamma. Because the good thing about the Dhamma is it's universal truth. So it's just talking about things that are timeless and that have meaning. And because then if we keep our mind inclined towards good states, and then when we do talk, we speak well, then we won't have an excess of words and be agitated. But even at the time of the Buddha, I think once the Buddha called the monks he was with like a pack of fish hawkers. They were so noisy. So, even with the Buddha present, there were times when monks were very unrestrained. So it's a good thing to reflect that, the more we develop the meditation, then it's our job to take that meditation, take that peace back with us into our lives. So then we come from peace and neutrality and balance and the middle of things, rather than always lost in the moods and the stories of our mind and the world around us. So then when we begin to see through the stories of the mind and want to actually overcome them. And so, if it's hard for us to get up early in the morning, and then we just look at that and we go, oh, okay, so my mind's just being lazy today. It's coming up with excuses again. And because there's something, I really like the tradition of Buddhism, as the monks or nuns used to go, it's still in countries, some places they do, they'll go on Pindabat early morning. So just when the light was first dawning, you would wander off with your alms bowl to the local hamlet or village or city or town, and people would come put some food in your bowl, and then you would go back for your day's abiding. And why I like all those traditional things is because it's easy for us to get caught up in the world, and for people who are living in the world, obviously it's even harder. But one thing I did notice when I was a layperson is that the effort you put into your practice when you're in the world exponentially comes back to you. Because the world around you is busy, the world around you is agitated, the world around you is miserly, has all of these stains. But when we practice, it's like we get in this slipstream of truth, where we're in the present moment, we're coming from good states, and we have like our own internal weather system. And then that internal weather system needs to be charged by peace and wisdom. And so that's why when we meditate, it's good to build an all-round practice. And that's why I like to focus on the attitudes of the mind. Because when you see the attitude of the mind, you already know what state it's in. So you can kind of, that's what in that meditation, by relaxing the body and saying certain words, kind of conditioning the mind to let go of its stories of the day and come to peace. So it's just kind of using cause and effect to settle the mind, so then the mind is no longer interested in the stories of the world. Because we're always going to have duties and things to do, and there's never an end to things that we can do in the world. But as the great masters say, that there is an end to practice. And that's when the mind is totally free from all things that cause suffering. And that's why when the Buddha, I think there was this teaching on the 5 things that should be cultivated when developing breath meditation for somebody keen on enlightenment. And one of them is to regularly review how liberated the mind is. So every now and then we use our meditation and peace to turn back on ourselves and then see, is there passion, is there anger, or are these things just being temporarily suppressed? Or, what happens when insects land on me, or a snake slithers by, or a child screams obscenities at me, or whatever it may be. And then we use the reflection of our mind and our experience to see, are we going in the right direction or not. So then we can use the peace to develop insight. And when the Buddha's teaching, one way of looking at it is the 7 factors of enlightenment. And so earlier we had the 5 hindrances. So either the 5 hindrances, one of them is predominating the mind, or one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And we know a lot about mindfulness, but the other ones are things like peace and tranquility and investigation of truth. And so it's like we have access to wholesome qualities, but it requires us to have good attitude and develop a kind of gradual path. So more and more throughout the day we make use of the little activities. Like a friend of mine said, if you're struggling with mindfulness, then just choose one activity. Say, what did he say? Like making a cup of tea. And then so every time you make a cup of tea, just make sure that you're 100% mindful. Mindful of filling the kettle, mindful of walking back to where the cup is and picking up the tea, mindful of every minute detail. And then every time you make a cup of tea, you have that experience. But don't be in a rush. Don't say, and then I've got to be mindful of this and mindful of that. And we just start with one little thing, one area of our life, and then it can grow from there. And then the same with our sitting and walking meditation. And why I recommend walking meditation is because the mindfulness that is formed is long-lasting. Sometimes when we sit in meditation, we can get up and like that, something happens and all the peace vanishes. But not always, but it can happen like that. And so that's why it's good when we finish meditation to have a good frame of mind, and then to make the intention to take the peace and what we've developed in the meditation back out with us into the rest of our day. With the walking meditation, because you're aware of the walking, like the sensations of the feet, or saying like Buddha, Buddha, and get to the end of the path and mindfully turn around and walk back, because it has an aspect of the physical body it is very good to alternate. So then, even though people think they may not be able to meditate more, if they just try doing a little bit of walking meditation, then it gets everything moving. It's good for the health, good for the digestion, and also builds very strong mindfulness. And it doesn't have to be long. I think starting with meditations of 5 to 20 minutes, those kind of periods, even that's enough. But you have to have a strong intention of what you're doing, because otherwise, you sit down and go, I don't really feel like doing this right now. It's like, well, you were only committing to like 5 or 20 minutes, so you've got to try and get the causes right. And so having a little bit of a ritual of how you do things, setting up the mind. Like at one point in the past, for a long period, I used to do the 4 Brahma Viharas. I'd say like Metta Chit, Metta Chit, Metta Chit, Karuna Chit, Karuna Chit, Karuna Chit, Mudita Chit, Mudita Chit, Mudita Chit, Upekkha Chit, Upekkha Chit, Upekkha Chit. And they're the 4 Brahma Viharas with the word Chit, which is like the mind or the heart. And then so by just taking the mind I would do that, and then the 3 refuges, and then that was enough to settle the mind. And because you actually, like when we do the metta chanting or the chanting, or even a simple thing like I just said, that's enough to settle and focus. And then the more we really tune into what we're doing, it's like the power of those Brahmaviharas can even be felt in that brief little moment. So, yeah. Now you've all come out of your meditation. Is there any questions? Anyone have any questions about meditation or practice? Some area that finding it hard, or yes?
Bob's got a question.
I think you have to unmute yourself there, Bob.
Yep.
Okay.
Walking meditation, yeah.
Well, it's always like that at the start. It's just because we haven't worked out how to do it yet.
I have tried so many times, but I find I'm too focused on where my feet are landing, the motor actions, and
just
I really like to be able to meditate and walk, but
just try a peaceful or joyful, or some simple word like that. Then so you go peaceful, peaceful, and then walk at a pace that makes your mind comfortable. So you don't have to walk slow or fast, but you just walk, and then you have a clear area, and you try and be aware when you're starting. Set the mind up, have some little formula, so you're committing to doing your meditation for so long, and some little reflection. So then you're building a habit. So what happens then is when next time you do this, your mind goes, oh, that's right, it's going to be expecting this. So just like we expect when we sit meditation, we build a habit, we need to make a good habit for the walking meditation. So you set up your mind, have your little walking meditation path, you know where the beginning is and the end is, and then if you can't yet use like the feelings or Buddha or something, then just choose a quality that feels suitable to you right now. But don't change in the meditation, just try and stick with that if you can. So like peaceful, so you can have peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. And you try and have a fairly composed posture. So usually they have the hands sitting just in front of the body. And that's because we're learning to compose the body. So just like over time we learn to compose the sitting posture, we also learn to compose the walking posture. And then all of these things over time build up. But if you can't do 20 minutes meditation, then just do start with 5. And then after a week, put it up to 10 minutes. So, but it's just a suggestion. See how you go with it. And yeah, I know a lot of people, and I think until you've done a few hours of walking meditation, it's just takes a bit of getting used to. So you just need to. Also, even I find if I stop doing walking meditation, the body gets a bit lazy as well. You know, just would prefer to sit than walk. But I highly recommend developing walking meditation, because even the Buddha said it's mindfulness. It develops mindfulness that lasts a long period of time. So it can actually help us throughout the day keep the mindfulness that we've made in our meditation. And did that make sense? Any further thoughts on that?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
I'll keep trying.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions or comments?
Okay.
Yeah, comment, Venerable. It was really lovely to be observing, at least from the external, your stillness and peace as a support for the guided practice. I found that really strengthened the words that you were saying, to observe that in your physicality. So just some feedback was really useful.
Yeah. And I think that's why I recommend the guided meditation or finding, I used to listen to Dharma talks, is because you get that feeling then, because the people you're listening to are focused on practice. And then, so when you're listening to a guided meditation, quite often you're listening to the guided meditation that person is actually doing. So it's not just words. So then we can tune into it more. And even for me, I enjoy doing guided meditations, because you're trying to tune in to where people are at and where you're at, and then actually let everything settle. So thank you. And I do recommend listening to guided, like finding one or two guided meditations if you're finding it difficult, and then a little MP3 player is good, because it's not a phone. You can't pick it up and start messaging if you lose your mindfulness. And I've always been one keen on having a separate device for the audio, and they're not very expensive these days. And then just change things and don't put thousands of things on there either. That's the thing. This is modern day. We have this digital convenience, but just put your favorite things on, or some things you might be interested in. And then if the mind really doesn't want to meditate, sometimes then you can just listen to like a talk of somebody you really like, or you can listen to a guided meditation, and then you can meditate while that's going on. So you don't always have to listen to things, but you can use the Dharma talk or the guided meditation as a way for you to meditate, so then you're not getting caught up in the feelings of the defilements saying, I don't want to meditate, because you've got something else to put your focus on. And that's why I think what you said is true generically of the good teachers I've listened to in the past. And that's why I like sharing guided meditation. But I also hope that people really try to develop a practice, because it's the hardest work there is, developing the mind. So it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. Yes.
And Venerable, for those who don't know, there are a lot of guided meditations for free download on the Buddhist Society website and on our podcast website.
Mm-hmm.
So I presume tonight's talk will be going up there, is that right? Bobby? Yes? Yeah, so you'll be able to get access to that. So, I'm with you on guided meditations. I still listen to them.
Yeah, Yeah, I think they're good because then you have a baseline. So even if you really have ended up in some unwholesome mind states, you can use a guided meditation to settle yourself back down. And another thing is the early mornings is a great time to wake up. When the birds are first waking up, because nobody else is awake at that time, or very few people. And so no matter when people say they want stillness and peace, or even just one day a week to wake up a bit earlier is very rewarding. But as you see, like when I do the guided meditation, I have a lot of focus on awake and posture that's a wakefulness, because there's a tendency when we meditate, because we've been so busy in our lives, that we start to meditate and then we just start to fall asleep. So that's why I think it is, as you've both said, useful to have the guided meditations, but also useful to look at our own minds and see which hindrance is the greatest problem. And that's why I think the stillness is probably good for most Westerners and anybody who thinks a lot, because it goes against what our mind is used to doing. And sometimes when we contemplate as well, our mind's not ready for it, so it brings up aversion. And so the idea of developing the stillness of the peace, I think Ajahn Tate said it's like if you take a feather to a fire, then it'll shrivel. And that's like if we start contemplating family members who have passed away and people who have died, the mind might become sad. And so what we're able to do by developing lots of peace and joy in the mind is bright. And then we can actually contemplate these things and see the wisdom. And then when the mind is starting to move towards that point where it's about to start losing its peace, then we know, okay, well, we'll come back to the peace. So that's where, for me, I'm somebody who has to develop a little bit of wisdom through the day in order to meditate. So I know there's all different teachers out there, and that's why the Buddha said there was, I may not have this perfectly right. Actually, Ananda, the Buddha's attendant after the Buddha died, said there's one who develops samatha, then vipassana. Samatha is like calm, vipassana is insight or investigation into truth. So one who develops samatha, then vipassana. One who develops vipassana, then samatha. One who develops them both together. Or one who through agitation finds release. So I suggest being one of the first three. Rather than, I think people who study their whole lives and then at the last minute decide to start practicing, they're the ones who through agitation find release. Like Venerable Ananda. Anyway, I think that brings us to a good end for the evening.